Hello everyone, welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm Richard Carlton here at fmtrain.tv, where we have a very exciting time. Today is Friday, end of the week. It's been an interesting couple weeks. Really good couple weeks, I think, from the perspective of our topic today, in terms of communication from Claris, messaging from Claris. I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, there was this keynote address, about 2 weeks ago. Kind of a keynote where Brad Freitag, kind of the mostly new, kind of not really new CEO, was kind of laying out his mission, the vision of where they were going. We had a live stream to follow up on that the same day. And it was really, from a developer community perspective, at least from my perspective, it was kind of a watershed event. It was kind of like, based upon everything we were seeing, it was kind of this final kind of a conclusion where you realize that they get it. So I'm talking to other developers. I'm not talking to Claris right now, but from a developer perspective, you're always worried about, if you're the person that's screwing the parts together in FileMaker, you want to make sure that the people who make FileMaker get it and understand it. And I think it's started to become clear to a lot of us that they had made great strides in really understanding that. So. At any rate, so there was an additional follow-on event. It was kind of this Q&A event, and you could call it Q&A, but basically it was just an opportunity for Claris to, refocus and come back and revisit some things that they couldn't hit very rapidly. Margaret, who do we have here right now? Who's on our call?
We have Nick and Jacob Taylor. Nick Hunter and Jacob Taylor.
Nick Hunter made it. Oh my God. So we're going to be talking about the event. So let me pop over to the YouTube, or to, YouTube real quick. I'm going to make myself kind of small and cuddly and out of the way, maybe a very narrow slice of Richard right here. And so this is the event that popped up. This is an executive Q&A, and it was basically an opportunity for Claris management to clarify where they were going. Because in the last couple of DevCons, or whatever you want to call them, you can have a keynote address, but really they have a lot of things they want to message. And in the previous, I would say 2 years ago when it was just good. I mean, overall, I'm very, very happy. And the material in this event perfectly segues with what was in the first event, and so I went through and watched it, made notes. I wanted to talk about this a little bit, and kind of summarize for you folks if you don't want to watch it. It's good stuff. I think that there's stuff in here sufficiently revolutionary that it's going to scare a lot of people. And I was watching, I was watching some people today on another live stream, and some of you were probably there. And it was another Claris executive, kind of lower down the food chain, was talking, and I looked at the people there, and it looked like a convention of senior citizens, right? And I was one of the more younger people there, and so I think if you're older and you've using FileMaker a certain way for 30 years, some of the things that Claris is saying is potentially scary for you. A couple of people there were still harping about the price of Claris Cloud, right? The FileMaker Cloud product, right? Which was like 2 years ago, set that price, right? That whole thing, or whatever it was. It's been a long time since that price was set. And they were still harping on that, never mind trying to wrap their heads around the new stuff that was coming. So one of the big jobs that I have with training for all of you, we're going to do this together, is to understand what the new people need, the new FileMaker users that come to the platform, what they are going to need in terms of learning the platform, and then almost a completely separate track of education for the people who've been doing it for a while, and they have to understand kind of, they've come home and someone's moved all the furniture. But they're also, and it's dark, there's no lights on, and you're stumbling through your house and the furniture's been moved. So what does that look like, right? And I think it can be scary when someone moves the furniture and it wasn't your idea. And I think if you're younger, you're more apt to embracing change. So once again, it's always a concern for me when we have people who are a little bit older, don't freak out about stuff, right? Embrace the new technology, because it's going to be much, much, much better. Jacob Taylor, are you there?
I am, yes.
And so Jacob Taylor represents kind of one of the younger people at RCC, extraordinarily sharp individual. Reminds me of a very young Wim DeCourt a little bit, and young relative to the old people because Wim's my age, right? So, and so he's got his foot in a lot more evolving new technologies, things like that. He drags me along kicking and screaming. So having him here is very, very useful. I'm going to start this off. So basically, Brad was on the presentation, and Nick, you've said you had a chance to meet Peter, talk to him a little bit. But you weren't there very long when he was there, or how'd that go with you and Peter? Because I have a very high opinion of Peter Nelson. I don't know the guy, but damn if I'm not impressed.
Okay, so I worked with him, okay, for at least a year. So I have an extensive experience with him. I don't know if you remember me, but yes, we had interaction a lot at that time because he was involved with everything web. Okay, so at that time I was involved in the web direct, everything that was web. Okay, so that's why I was involved with him. And he has a sharp opinion, and he's not afraid of voicing his opinion. And so now that he's on the bridge of the engineering. Is like the Geordie LaForge of
Star Trek, right? Yeah.
Of Claris. I think is more like a Klingon style that
I was going to point this out. So I don't know how the hell, and I mean this very lovingly. So everything I like about Peter Nelson, I don't know where Brad found him. I don't know what caused Brad to listen to Peter. I don't know how that evolved, but Peter is a lot like a Ryan McCann. He's a lot like, frankly, me, or I'm like him. We're very outspoken. We're very opinionated.
Yes.
And we know what we know. Nick, you're the same way. And so we know what we know. I think the trick is admitting when you don't know what you don't know, right? But when I know something, like absolutely, so when he's presenting here in this conversation, it's from an absolute standpoint of absolute confidence. And he actually says, without a doubt, some of this we're investigating. Some of it we're figuring out as we go. Other parts of it, I pretty much know how it's going to be. So just shut up and sit down for the ride, because here it goes, right? I mean, I don't know how he survives in corporate America like that, because
it didn't survive with the management before. That where he left the company for 4 years, 5 years, even more, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
He left the company because with the management more prehistorical that we had before at Claris, people. When you have a badge and you have you are the employee number 3, employee number 4 of a company, and you have the command, and you're the commander in chief, nothing will happen. Yeah. Nothing will happen because you are on the pace. Okay, when you come from that age, you are on the pace of the floppy, not on the not on the pace of the gigabit per second. So they were coming from the finished good era. Okay, from the box with floppies, with one FileMaker version every 3 years, right? So
I get it. I don't. It's just his personality is normally one that would be stomped and destroyed, and like I said, he left and then they came back, and I don't know what Brad. I don't know if Brad won the lucky lotto. I mean, it's not the. I'm just having someone who understands things fundamentally, and he can get non-technical people to explain it to them in a way they understand. So let's talk about this. I made notes about this. I have literally page 1, page 2, page 3, and the top of page 4 with the relevant notes that I thought was important on this.
You got the point here. Okay, Peter Nelson is a guy like you, like me, like many people that. When we say something, we don't even understand why you are going to argue, and why are you arguing? I'm right. Stop the conversation. And you are like that. I'm like so. How to attract a person like this? Just for the same reason I'm working for you.
Yeah.
You say, Nick, do what you want to do. That's it.
Yeah, but you have to have the wisdom to do that. And Brad dug deep. I don't know how it happened. All I can say is it's great. So So I'm going to start off with the beginning of the conversation. So there's a conversation in here that they talk about. There's a couple charts in here, and I really like this chart. And basically, the short version is that Claris was talking about kind of their strategic vision, and they wanted to kind of, from years ago, they wanted to back 2 years ago when they had Srini up on stage and he was promising everything, and that was loosely alluded to here, kind of indirectly, but the idea was that Claris knew they needed to rip the engine out of FileMaker and re-engine it with something better. The goal is not to destroy FileMaker, to take features away. The goal is just to fix the hand. FileMaker is literally, in some ways, kind of like a car, someone who can't walk very far and they have the handicap window thing in the window and they park in the front. You want to take all those limitations away, and having a robust engine that can really deploy into the cloud, multi-tenant. Basically, the idea, forget the technology. This just would make the deployments of FileMaker Server 1/2 or 1/4 or 1/10 the cost of what they are right now. And so there's this kind of this conversation that's going on around that. But the idea here is that they said that this is this continuum of messaging. So whenever we have our video, you see the video starts up, says the leader workplace innovation platform. That was a branding, a awareness that Claris tried to promote that the tech world didn't. Claris was the end of the tail of the dog, and they're trying to wag the tech world, and they figured out they couldn't do that. And so the dog is running around going low code, no code, and Claris is on the tail, and we're the flea on the end of the Claris tail, right? We're way back there. And so we really can't move the dog, right? The dog is doing what the dog wants to do. So we have this low code area. This is where, have Airtable, things like that, drag and drop, and they have very limited capabilities. And then you have this idea of low code products that do a tremendous amount. And then the idea is that if they stretch, they can get into this area where they can provide a product that's appealing to professional coders. And so they realize that they're kind of there in that. This up here is where Josh Ormond lives, Chris Moyer, Heidi Porter, Kyle, Nick, some of the people, Jacob Taylor. They live up in this edge of this area up here. And what Claris has said very specifically is that they want to, it was at about 16 minutes, they're looking for an infrastructure, the underlying infrastructure overhaul that basically takes precedence on everything else, all the fancy new cup holders and things that people were asking. Last time we had this conversation a week ago, someone says, well, what about a new option under the inspector on the left side for a grouped object, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's what we're in about the cup holder on your car when they're trying to put an alternate or new engine under the hood. If the mechanics are working on a new engine, they don't care about the cup holder in the near term. And so it's kind of important to understand that. So Peter spent a lot of time talking about kind of this idea of this new engine. And the goal is that you have FileMaker. So FileMaker, as most of us hopefully understand, it's really kind of three products that are all together. The three products are a database backend, kind of like, for lack of a better word, like Excel, like columns, rows, and columns and data. That's your data storage. Then you have this interface, this GUI interface, and you have this logic, calculation, scripting thing that goes on. So it's like business logic, right? So these three elements make one product. And so what they're doing is they're taking this back end data storage and they're replacing it, or they want to augment it. And the idea is to augment it with some, basically kind of a Jacob Taylor is MongoDB. Is that an open source product? I believe it is. It's open source. So they're building their back end on an open source database engine. So as the community works on making that engine better, improving it, and this and that and the other, Claris can take advantage of those improvements without researching it and paying it for themselves. Because the engine that's in FileMaker right now is their own proprietary engine, right? So the goal is to leverage some open source technology to make it go better, faster, further. But I think the scary part, this is such a pivotal thing, is that they're going to come up with a new engine, and they're also, along with this new engine, going to come up kind of, I don't know if I would say a new design surface, but I would say potentially even in the FileMaker Pro product, you could even have it be in an alternate mode, kind of like when you're in the mode where you you know, you have the design surface when you're trying the new quick start out, and it's kind of webby and drag and drop, and it's very kind of HTML, but you're in an app. They want to take that and really beef it out. So I don't know what they will really call it at the end of days when they ship it, but it's like WebDirect version 2. I'll just call it WebDirect 2, right, for lack of a better term. And the idea is that it removes all the limitations, the problems they have with WebDirect. It's super robust. And so you can use that. You can use within the FileMaker Pro application itself. So it's really like you'll have this fully robust FileMaker Pro application as well as this web development front end as well that's in there. And you can choose which one you want to use. Exactly how they manifest this, I think it's to be determined. I think they want to start showing kind of their ideas in January. If you look at the quick start experience in the product right now, if you jump over there, let me just do that real quick. I don't know if I can even get it to work real quick. If I say create new and I say try the quick start experience, and I'm going to create it over here, and I pop it up and I say okay, you know, so this is kind of the idea, but they beef this out. This is very, very limited. They want this to have all the capabilities that FileMaker has, but if you look at it, you know, it's got this kind of snappiness to it. It doesn't really have pixel precision alignment. So where does that fit in the world? Because I can tell you from a Nick perspective, if Nick Hunter, a designer, doesn't have pixel precision, his ability to control it precisely down the pixel, he won't use it, right? So the goal is for them to build this kind of webby kind of interface, but then give it the robustness that FileMaker has, FileMaker Pro has currently under the hood. So new engine, better WebDirect level 2, whatever you want to call that, and with the same capabilities of the FileMaker platform, because they don't want to lose that. Brad mentions this specifically at 18 minutes, or 19 minutes and 58 seconds. He talks about the continuity of skill sets. He says the developers, the community they have, and the skill sets they have continue to be, quote, a leverage point for the platform. And he says the words continuity of skill sets. So your skill set that you have, there'll be continuity with it. It will continue to be valuable as it moves forward, right, with the new stuff. So, yeah, FileMaker Air. That was, I think that was the name of an experimental product back about 12 years ago. Ryan Rosenberger's running around talking about that. So,
FileMaker what? Fusion? They had a product that called Fusion.
That's different than this. They had a version of a very lightweight deployable client, but I think this is, you know, whatever technology they would have been using 15 years ago, NetLobster would be different than the new stuff they have now. So Josh says you don't need pixel precision if the design layer is flexible. It makes design easier, but all of that we've been shown is all pre-release V1, right? Yeah. So you know, I think this comes down to Peter Nelson having a high degree of confidence in this and being absolutely driven forward, but at the same time being flexible. He's not like committing to things that he doesn't know about, right? It brought up the Android issue. So the Claris Android issue, and I'm talking to Live Code, we have 2 weeks of Live Code app building coming up. October 4th, it'll start a 2-week session where we're building design process all the way through building an Android app or whatever platform you want to run it on, and then we're going to submit it all the way through to Google's marketplace, right? Very cool. But the idea with they basically said Android was deprioritized at the moment. Well, this goes back to kind of Srini running wild, and Brad said, well, we learned I learned some things. We learned some things about expectation management, right? And you know, and that's the problem. You get in front of an audience and everyone's giving you love and you're loving them, and then you just want to agree to everything, right? And sometimes you have to say no. And Peter Nelson did that in this live stream. I mean, he said that there are things that are priorities and there's things that are secondary, like way down the road secondary, but you know, whenever. And so, you know, basically their Android strategy is unchanged in the big scheme of things. Their Android strategy is basically we're going to have a web environment that's so awesome that you won't be having all these fits and problems that you have right now because, you know, it's going to be more of an application. It'll be rich. It won't have all the current problems that WebDirect has. Jacob, you want to throw stuff in here a little bit? Things that you keyed on?
Yeah, I'm I'm actually really kind of excited about what specifically. I know we were we'll say listening to different speakers in that same hour. I think you were keying off of a bunch of what Brad talked about, and also Peter Nelson. I was trying to read between the lines of what Peter Nelson was saying as far as where the technology is going. Because that's what I want to look at. I want to see that we are kind of setting the community up for success in the long term. I don't need to take a position on Mongo or anything else, but I think the general concept is awesome. They're swapping out the engine while still keeping Draco, and that's really cool, actually.
Yeah, my impression is that Draco becomes a layer. Maybe that's I have such a negative impression of ESS in general because it always was slow and painful. It solved some problems, but it was icky, right? So them using the term ESS, but I think that's what they're referring to. Draco as a layer that talks to the Mongo database. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes. Let me clarify this because this is something I'm aware of and I'm familiar to. Okay, so we have in a database, for example, SQL is not a database. It's a language of querying a database. Okay, it's not a database. Okay, so Draco is. It is now, but it was in the future. Draco will be a language. It will be, like you say, a layer to display graphs, to create logics, like SQL. SQL, you create a logic, you create queries, you create relationship, but even though if you don't have a relationship in SQL. But, so Draco will become a layer where you will draw your relationship and stuff like that, like it is today. But the engine that will take the command and execute the command will be Mongo, will be a NoSQL, which is the NoSQL because SQL. SQL is a language, and Draco will become a language of querying and the logic of the database.
Yep. So there's a conversation that's kind of going over here. So Ruben, for those of you who don't know Ruben is an Oracle background kind of guy, and so he's kind of been de-evolved into the world of FileMaker a little bit. I'm not quite entirely sure how that happened, but he comes from the big iron world, and so I think though is at least in the initial incarnations of this thing, which they're talking about for next summer, is that Draco is this, we talk about Draco all the time, but you really don't see it. It's this invisible thing that makes FileMaker work the way it's worked. It's a secret sauce under the hood.
Managed database is Draco. Managed database.
It is, but there's not really, it's drag and drop, and it's 3 or 4 windows or 5 windows, whatever it is. The point is, it's not really like where SQL is a language you can get in there and write the code.
Yes.
I think you'll interact with, I think this is something that, at least in the near term, listen, the goal for Claris is not to destroy the FileMaker community. I think that they realize that very clearly at this point. It's their bread and butter. It's the thing that keeps paying the bills while they're trying to figure out what they're doing. And I think largely now they have a coherent plan, which is awesome. But they don't want to destroy the community, and the way you destroy the community is what they did with basically FileMaker 7. And Rick Kalman this morning was talking about this a little bit, and he talked about this big, and he mentioned it kind of unprompted, which means he's thinking about it. And what happened with FileMaker 7 from 6 to 7 was basically a giant disaster. There were people who threatened that if they ever had to go through this again, they would leave the FileMaker platform. It was really a hard migration and conversion. I think the people at Claris, the people Brad doesn't know anything about this. He was not there. He was probably in college at the time this happened. I have no idea. But when this went down, some people, Rick was there, Clay was there, Peter may have been there. The point is that it was really horrible. It was really ugly. And Rick this morning kind of didn't really pontificate too much on it, but people threatened to leave the platform if Claris ever did anything this badly again. So I think that in the back of their mind, they're trying to make sure that this is a seamless transition. And Peter said that very clearly. Someone said, well, how hard is it going to be? Where was that at? How hard is it going to be to move to this new engine? And basically, Peter said, quote, ideally seamless to switch over, right? Ideally seamless. And so that's kind of, go ahead, Nick.
No, sorry. I just want to jump on this 6 to 7 because I remember very well this time. And so the 7.70 was a necessity, completely, totally unprepared. So, but it was a necessity. Let me remind you, Mac OS 10 Classic, PowerPC, Intel platform. It was that time on the Mac community. So FileMaker 6 was a nightmare. FileMaker 5.5, you remember the 5.5? Okay.
Yep.
So 8.5, sorry, 5.5. 5.5, 6, and 7, that was a nightmare. So it was unprepared, but necessary. It was a necessity. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, what we do now is the same way. It's a necessity, just what I hope that they will be prepared. But normally they won't have the Mac OS in the middle that was screwing up completely. The effort. What they did in that time, I talked to Simon Thornhill. The guy who did that, the guy who engineered that 7.0 was Simon Thornhill. I talked to him about this. We discussed about this time, and he said, okay, look, it was a near disaster that we never could finish it because the platform we were working on was constantly moving. I'm talking about Microsoft Windows was moving all apart, NT, no NT, ME, 98, 2000. Remember that time on the Windows platform? And the Mac platform, Mac OS 10, PowerPC, Intel, Classic. Whoa! Okay, so it's, no. It was a necessity, totally unprepared. Now I think at Claris they will prepare it.
Ruben says it'd be very welcome to have a seamless migration. I wonder how they do it, but your thoughts are good. Yeah, the goal, and I think that Peter said this as well. In fact, I know he said this. I don't think he said it. He was basically saying that if we can make this work and you can use all our new stuff and just switch everything over, that's great. But the idea is that this is going to work with FileMaker kind of in perpetuity. I don't know what that looks like short-term, long-term. It sounds like there's like this classic FileMaker and then there's this new FileMaker, right? Really? And everyone's like, well, FileMaker's going to go away, right? They kept showing this chart and talk about a chart that where'd that go? It's over here. Talk about a chart that was really misrepresented or misunderstood. I haven't had a chance to clarify this with Claris. Of course, my dialogue with them has been pretty low. I think it'll get better, but it's been pretty low. But people were commenting, basically, for those of you wondering about this, whenever you come out with new technology, basically there's this high growth rate if you have a successful product, and then it tapers off. Ask Apple how they know about this, right? The iPhone, right? Everyone's like, oh, we keep expecting Apple to grow 50% a year, blah, 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 blah. Well, they're running out of humans on the planet, right? The only way Apple can continue to grow iPhone sales rates and iPad sales rates is to take their product to another planet, right? Because they've saturated most of the world, right? And so their sales at this point are people who are renewing, or old devices die and they get the next upgraded device, but there's that flattening of the curve. And so the issue in here is FileMaker continues to live on in here. The question is how much of it are we really going to call FileMaker? Is there still a desktop app? There's some things in there that we don't know yet. But the strategy is that Claris wants to get to this. This green right here is beyond optimistic. Someone gave themselves a big pat on the back. That green should be flat, 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 flat. Like it went, right? And so now they're trying to get to this orange mode where they basically connects an ancillary piece that's useful. Now they got this new back end, and we have the FileMaker front end. And so we weave all this together to make a really high value platform, and the platform continues to grow again. Because if they can nail the scalability with the Mongo database, then they can go back over here to the other chart, and they said specifically they want to go off after and sell this over here. Is what they want to expand into that. So one of the things 2 years ago when they were promising the world to people, they said orchestrated workflows was one of the words. Orchestrated business processes, where you drag and drop a process and it knows that you want an invoice and you want this and in this, and it magically just builds a lot of it for you. They don't have that. They don't want to build that because they need to re-engine, shore up the foundation is what Peter said. So shore up the foundation. So once they do that, they want to go after this piece over here and expand into more professional code people like Josh, people like Ruben, specifically Ruben, a lot of Rubens out there, Oracle people who realize that they've been it's like Gulliver on the Island, right? Whatever I think that was the one where they strapped the giant down. You're a professional developer, but you're handicapped by the tools. What if you had a professional scalable tool that had the ease of use of kind of like FileMaker, right? Then you'd have this really badass platform, and Claris could go out and chase after these pro coders in a more organized and systematic way, right? And of course, along the way, then they figure out if they want to go backwards at all. The problem is a lot of people here, no code is a good spot to expose people to, but a lot of people, and some of you are like this watching this live stream, you're like, oh, I got to spend $99 a year for FileMaker. Oh, it's too much money. Claris, yeah. So Claris doesn't want to run you out of the platform, but they're really not interested in people who want to spend, one person spends $99 a year. If they were interested in that, they would offer that as a product. They don't do that. Really, that's kind of gets into onboarding and things like that. But they want to onboard these individual people, and then like a Josh Orman, they onboard a Josh, and then Josh goes and rolls it out in this company with hundreds of users, right? So that's kind of the idea. So David says FileMaker has a short learning curve. Yes and no. It has a short learning curve for this low code part, but if you start doing pro code stuff in there, it's pretty much unlimited. It kind of caps out because of the engine, but if you start getting to APIs and you're doing Ajax and doing all these other, kind of API kind of activities on the advanced end of things, there's an unlimited scale of things you can learn. Jacob Taylor, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Comments, thoughts as we're going to go through this.
No.
One of the things that you were excited about was the fact that they're talking about Brad actually it was about the whole IT, getting along with IT stuff, right? Where was that at? Oh yeah. So it goes Claris, I think he said it was kind of funny, he almost giggled to himself. Claris is going to try to finally, quote, try to work with IT. What was your thoughts on that, Jake?
No, I think it's awesome. And to basically, Brad's quote was good, actually. He said, basically we're now trying to work with IT. We've not done that. It has not been a priority. And I took that as and he mentioned something kind of, trailing off at the end of a sentence or something, but he mentioned that, they had a lot of success over the last 30 years being an upstart or an insurgent kind of software, right? People running little FileMaker servers under their desk.
What do they call that? Stealth or guerrilla development, right? Which IT hates that. They hate that.
Oh, it's no, and so lots of IT departments have been really mad about that, because people will, do stuff under their noses. They haven't asked, et cetera, right? There's no certifications. IT doesn't know about whatever that resource is and isn't empowered to really manage it either. And so kind of on the basics, they're going and doing some of these SOC certifications and just stuff that'll make enterprise IT go, oh, okay, we know how to work with that. That's fine. But also, I take the broader point, which is they are, I don't know on what time frame, but trying to give up that kind of cowboy spirit and work with enterprise IT and work with that part of the organization to move this stuff out. That, frankly, probably won't affect desktop software, because the way that a lot of people build this stuff is they start with something like FMSP and they evolve a little solution that solves their problems. And I think it'll continue, but when they make the jump to a hosted solution, IT will be a lot less, pissy, basically. I think that's their, strategically, that's their intention, basically. That's what Claris is aiming for.
Yeah, Claris said, Brad said additionally, says, our goal is to provide air cover for the developers, right? So once again, Brad's background is kind of interesting. I'm not sure, Yeah, I don't think he did any time in the military, but that's an interesting. If you understand what that really means, that's a really good thing. It means that if we're the troops on the ground, and we're in there working, trying to get a solution deployed, Claris has interest in engaging the IT to solve those problems, to keep IT off our back, right? So we can actually sell the solution. Because, I mean, as a developer, we're the people who have to explain what it can do, sell the solution, show value immediately, get them to commit to going forward incrementally or however you're going to do that. But basically showing or providing value and then building that relationship. And you don't need bombers, IT bombers above bombing your out of existence while you're on the ground trying to have these meetings, right? I've actually been there literally in the California Department of Justice. We were demonstrating FileMaker Server. It was working, and the IT people saw it working, and they ran out of the meeting. And I found this out after the fact. Suddenly, everything quit working. They programmed their switch to stop passing the 5003 traffic. And so it would not pass port 5003 traffic to kill the demo. So they were that anti-FileMaker. They were in the meeting. It was working. They went, oh, someone went out. They were whatever had happened. This happened. No, absolutely truthful story. So if you could have Claris do some things to make it non-scary for the IT folks, you're going to always have people with a bias towards, oh, we're an Oracle shopper. Oh, we're a Microsoft shopper. Oh, we only do Google or AWS or whatever. But if notwithstanding those political allegiances, making it not scary, providing air cover so we don't get bombed in a meeting was really great. I love that.
There are some questions on YouTube if you wanted to snag those. But...
YouTube. I'm looking at YouTube. Well, there's one question here. WJ Wormer had a question and then retracted it. Ungar says, is there a better solution to handle 30 public users per month for a public website application? Well, I would ask you what your website needs to do. If you just have a website that, but if those public users are trying to access data that you have in a corporate database, like your FileMaker database, yeah, then I would look to see if, because really WebDirect is not, they want to solve this problem. If somewhere it came up, they wanted to, public facing access was one of the things they wanted to tackle. That being said, right now, if you need public facing access, you need to use FileMaker Server. I wouldn't go down the road with FileMaker Cloud. I'd use FileMaker Server. I would use Data API or DAPI or DAPI, we refer to it. And that's an API kind of front end that allows you to get that data out of FileMaker and display it basically within your HTML web page. So that's kind of on the more advanced side of the conversation here. I would say it's definitely over in this area right in here in terms of skill set. There's some very high-end power users that can do it to a degree, but it really in the edge of what we call pro coders, right? People who are going to code, not drag and drop, but code, right? Write lines of code. Really good conversation. For those of you who have not watched this, I suggest you watch it. I had to watch it twice fully and I would pause and make notes and think about what they're saying. I'm really glad they did this. And they allowed the questions. And once again, I think the scary part is for people being afraid of where they're going in that other slide over here. Because, everyone saw this slide and they just basically freaked out, right? It's like, oh, well, FileMaker's going to go away. And so I can't, this Claris platform up here, and I'm sure that the Moyers are all hoping that they get rid of the word FileMaker, but whatever, the FileMaker platform, whatever it is, whether it's renamed the Uchi Gucci Cheesecake Ormond platform, it's in here. This is a combined FileMaker framework with a nice fast back-end engine, and then you sprinkle a little Claris Connect around, and then hopefully you don't charge too much for it. That would be great. Start with that. The conversation on premium, the idea with that, they're not going to go down that road, at least at this point. They said that they think that basically I'm going to enhance what they said a little bit, but Pro will be the full premium product, for lack of a better term for that. I'm just using the word Pro because we understand what that is. And they figure that it sounds like they would offer some sort of free level below that, potentially, to get people in. I don't entirely know what that would look like. But their overall priority is vastly better onboarding of people, right? Vastly better of onboarding, right? And so, that's an important thing, right? Because once again, we had this meeting today, right? We had this meeting today, and it was I was watching it, and thanks to Heidi for letting me know about that. But it was Rick Kalman got there, and most of the questions were, it wasn't really like, it was mostly like, hey, Rick, how's life? And, you've lost some weight, you look great. And then tell us, what you did, 25 years ago. Right. And I I was laughing. It was 45 minutes of Rick's recollections of the world, which is the questions they asked him, which was fine. But I'm looking at the people in there, and literally, Jacob Taylor, if you were there, I think legitimately the youngest people there were about 40, right? So I don't know if anyone was there.
Then if I were there, then I'd be a decade younger than anybody.
Yeah, a decade younger than anyone by far. So yeah, so why did I mention that? Because you have to find a way of onboarding the new people. One thing that Brad did, and I want to take exception with this, Brad, and he's like, he's like desperately, this is the benefit of a CEO. You mix a lot of awesome stuff, and then you try to candy coat some other stuff. And he was patting themselves on the back about all this outreach they're doing and all this sort of stuff, and with these colleges and stuff with curriculum. What curriculum? There is no curriculum. I am one of the few people have any curriculum. There is no. You have your curriculum that's in the academy. He was like, well, we don't really have to do freemium because we've done a lot of outreach with colleges and this and that and whatever. And I'm like, you can't limit your outreach to those narrow little channels. You have to have how many of you were exposed to FileMaker in college as part of a curriculum in college, or even went to college? How many of you saw it because someone else was at a party and said, this was cool, you got to check it out, right? And so I think trying to, pat yourself on the back and saying we're doing this with colleges, if you could create a curriculum and do that, then that's great. I'm all for that. But the reality is, to offer onboarding, a seamless, easy onboarding has to be universal to the entire planet. It doesn't matter whether you're in school. It doesn't matter whether you're with Stu and somewhere in the Navy, you're on a boat, on a ship, wherever you're at. You need to be able to be exposed to that, because you never know where the next great FileMaker person is going to be, and a lot of the times they're not going to be in college, right? Because they're super creative types, right? And a lot of times the super creative types go to college and it freaks them out and they quit. So, so I saw that and I went, okay. He started CEOing on me, right? He started surfing the CEO. I always tell people that. What'd you do today? I said I had the CEO today, mostly management, positioning, stuff like that. So Brad was doing really good. He CEO'd that one part, and I was like, I could see it though, right? Because because I'm in the curriculum training business. It cannot be, we're gonna target that little spot there, and we're gonna target that. It has to be the ultimate wide-angle shotgun where it goes everywhere, right?
Can I add something to the?
Can you have something? I don't have any cheesecake for you, Nick.
Can I add something? Can I add something?
Add something. Okay, yes.
I think FileMaker for Claris, they have a problem from the origin of the product is how to price the product, and so they have this problem since the beginning of at the beginning. No, it was kind of simple. You buy a box, you buy 5 or 6 floppies, and everything fine. But since the advent of internet and especially now, they have a problem of pricing the product, and that's why the product is so expensive. And that's why the product is, on the large scale, it's very expensive. So, and that's why, so with this, what they are going to do, they're going to solve the problem of pricing the product. Because today, they can't price the product like a normal application is doing. Another thing that I want to add is, I think we are going to see here, what I can see, they are going to have some partnership with other companies to make the integration of all the services, all SaaS, all kind of service, like an email, like whatever Dropbox or something like this, right? So to make those integration easy, and to make this integration like in one click, you have the integration with Dropbox, not with 2 weeks of development, right? So I think they're going there. I think they're going there.
I have a question. Isn't that what Claris Connect is? And doesn't it like didn't it like kind of crash and burn because overpriced it?
I will tell you exactly what I said to Simon Thornhill, to Frank Lu, to Dominique Goupil, to all those people. I told them the same thing. If it is not in FileMaker Pro, it will never work. Period. I mean, if it's not in the product, I won't connect in FileMaker Pro. Connect in FileMaker Pro, it works. Connect outside, so that means I need to learn how to connect. It will never work. Claris Connect should be that. Claris Connect should be a partnership with many companies, but I want that like an add-on, like I click. A better way. Oh, I want to buy the service from Claris. I want to buy the service. I buy it. Okay, I need 10,000 email a month. That costs me $10.99 a month, and I have everything is automatic in FileMaker.
All right. So, we don't talk about Connect a lot. So I'm just confused, Nick, because Claris had, they went out and bought StamPlay. It was a product that was pre-built. It wasn't localized. It's been kind of a mess, but they bought this. It's not an outside partnership. They bought the product, right? So.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I mean confused. No, it's not confused. It's that if this product, Claris Connect, is not in the product in FileMaker inside FileMaker,
they've indicated they want to thread that in there. That's fine. But it has its own. It's already Claris. Okay.
The thing that they pre-saged or kind of pre-announced without actually telling us when it would happen is that they are building, and I think Peter Nelson said the time period on this was the short term, so whatever that means, for release, a development kit, and I took that as not actually targeted at us or anybody like us, but at those third-party services that might want to plug themselves into Connect. And so if, yes, we end up somewhere, to use Nick's verbiage, where Connect is in Pro, whatever that means, I don't know, and it's self-service to add your service to Connect, or something like self-service, a final vetting step from Claris, I'm sure would be good, to confirm the quality of the integration or whatever. Then that actually is very valuable, and companies that are coming up and saying, hey, there's something we might want to address to the FileMaker community because it is a flavor of workflow automation of some sort, they can just do it and then get the salute from Claris at the end.
Yeah. Well, I know that the Connect's had issues adding stuff like PayPal and other things because these companies want a big check cut from Claris. If a third party built through this company's APIs, a connector, right? I don't know that, I don't know that PayPal would, say, like, for example, we wrote an API stack or whatever you want to call it, sample stack, whatever, for PayPal. PayPal thought it was great. And they wanted to promote us, and then they ended up not happening, but that's fine. But they never came back and tried to pat me down like the mafia for some money, kickbacks and stuff, right? It was free. We didn't make really direct any money on it. But my impression is, as Claris has tried to do this with Connect, they've been kind of, patted down for money to get these hooks built, with PayPal or whoever. So I suspect that it might be an in-run around kind of this give me money kind of thing. And my impression, Jacob Taylor, was that it was for developers. It was for developers to go out there and build these things. Okay. And so it doesn't matter. I think they realize that they can't do it themselves, all of them, for a variety of reasons. Either they don't want to write the kickback check to the company.
There aren't enough keyboards to type the code that they're trying to tell us that needs to happen. So they need to scale. I'll say scale the capability. That does not mean add more people. It means make the work available to more people who will do it themselves.
Yep. So Josh was saying, we're working on getting Zendesk with Slack integration working. Slack couldn't get it fixed. Webhook problem solved, and working less than 10 minutes. Yeah. So crowdsource the connectors. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm loosely mentioning, because I know that Claris hasn't added certain connectors because they were expected to write a big check. Because really, Claris at the end of the day is kind of this screwed up version of Apple. I don't know what you want to call it. It's kind of the weird red-haired stepchild of Apple, right? Except they're not Apple, but they are Apple. And when they come knocking on your door, all people see is it's Apple knocking on your door, right? So, right. So I think it's something that helps them in some situations, and in some places it hurts them, right? If you had a small startup trying to write connectors for your stuff, you'd be encouraging it. But if Apple's going to come do something, oh yeah, I want a slice of that action, right? I want some of that money. So I think that they're penalized on that. And I think crowdsourcing the connectors what Josh has said is great. So next week, let's talk about next week on the broadcast schedule real quick. Next week is going to be basically doing audits on customer. Basically, you get dropped at a customer office or solution somewhere, either in-house developer or maybe you're a consultant, and you have to understand the mechanics of what's going on, right? And so we're going to be laying this out. It's not a technical programming exercise. It's just kind of like a 5-day conversation. I want feedback from you folks here who are here. Be there, Broderman. If Josh is around, that's great. Larry, obviously Scott. Those of you who have experience, Ruben, if he's still here, looks like he might have ejected. But the point is that we want to get the feedback from you on how you're looking at a customer solution. You've been brought in, just to continue what was already done, or to fix something that was broke, or the previous developer died in a horrible blimp crash. Yep. So that'll be next week. It'll be day by day. I'll have different engineers coming in to help us and provide guest commentary each day. I think, let me see if I go back to the database over here. Listen, we're going to look at this in the database. So next week.
You want to know?
Yeah, so we got Dave Henderson on day 1, Calvin day 2, Garrett day 3, and then the last 2 days are basically disaster recovery and server-related mayhem, and that will include Jacob Taylor next week. So they are and I'm actually running the broadcast and also doing the rest of it, although Margaret, we might have you help with some of that as well. So that's it. Today is Friday. We're done. I appreciate it, everyone. Jacob Taylor, Nick Hunter, any final thoughts or questions?
No, nothing much.
I think Peter Nelson is going to end up killing the Android Go conversation with this. That's my parting words.
What you mean in terms of supporting it or not supporting it, or what?
Yeah, there won't be an Android Go. 2 is it'll work in the browser, and 3 is it'll work native. It'll look native. It'll be fine.
Well, they got to figure that out, right? And so far, I think that's
from what he mentioned in that stream, he only said a couple things, but they're the bog standard tech that everyone else is using. And if you want an example of what a native app that runs in a browser looks like, for those of you who are watching, go try out Twitter's mobile website on your phone. That is the best example of something like that. That is what I am expecting. WebDirect obviously will not look like Twitter or whatever, but I don't mean it like that. But as far as the tech and the smoothness and that kind of stuff, that's what I'd tell you to go check out. Because essentially, from the things that he mentioned, they're going to build something like that. So.
Yep.
If you all are familiar and have not, don't use the app on your phone, but actually use the mobile website.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
He was mentioning something about Electron, and I have not used Electron. I'm not even familiar with what that is.
Yeah, that's how they'll address the desktop if what they ship as Pro is the the web-based FileMaker whatever stuff. The stuff that's currently preview, if it gets beefed out completely, and they decide to. Not to scare everybody, but replace Pro in flight or something with new Pro, whatever that is. I don't know. But something like that. He didn't commit to anything, but Electron is a way of encapsulating a website as a desktop app, essentially. It's what your Slack is, actually. Your Slack is an Electron app.
Oh, so, is it really? Okay.
Yeah. So if you think it's going to stick out a lot, think Slack. If they put some time into it, it will not stick out. No, it'll look just like anything else that you've used. So,
wow, impressive. Well, this could be a big deal for us developers, because the last thing I want to do is have to learn a new platform because Claris goes out of business, right? So that would suck. So yeah, but
no, I think this is going to open up whole new worlds for them. Plus, the performance will allow them to do a bunch of this. The real endpoint that I am seeing is the automation that they would like to do, which is, I guess that's like step 2 after all of this stuff. And right, there's all the risk between now and then to happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk in there. If they could just do this, I'd be happy to have. Because if you could take the tool and just fix the giant, the giant missing pieces, right, in terms of the engine and stuff like that, and then the web part of it, God, that.
And I think all of this, I think if they pull this off, and it seems like Peter's pretty confident that they can, some modulo some details, but get most of this basically done. We're going to have a screaming fast product that will work functionally the way it does today. But the motor will have been replaced.
The engine will be a new engine, right? So yeah, cool. All right, everyone, that's it for today. Appreciate it, Josh. Appreciate it. Glad you were here. Maybe in the future we can get you live and in person. That would be awesome as well. The weekend is loading. I got to figure out what I'm doing this weekend. I'm not entirely figured it out yet. So. All right, everyone, that's it for now. Appreciate it. See
just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, again he makes the grab.